Hey, hello. Thanks for joining me for the final chapters of Freakout Island. Yes, we're at that stage. There are just a few pages to go. But it's our time, kia ora, talofa. It's our time, our special time of day. And I love it that you've come and joined me here. Okay, do you remember where we're up to? If you haven't seen any of the previous chapters, go and check them out now on YouTube and then come back later. But if you have already seen all the other chapters, you will know that just recently we found out that our hero, Leo, met up with Angela, one of the workers on the island, and discovered what all the initials above the beds were. There's a thieving brat, a nose picker, a bubblegum swallower, that's Leo with the bubble butt. Ricky has a potty mouth, so he becomes a squawking parrot, and Harriet is a hair sucker, so she has, or hair chewer, so she has a bird's nest on her head. Now, greedy kids that they are, they drank lots of the cogswoggle juice while Leo slept, so they are partly deformed still. He's just advised them what's going on and they've decided to escape. But will they? Let's find out. Something's going to happen. Let's find out together. You nice and comfy? You ready for a story? Are you sure? Well, let's begin. Chapter 18. For once they gave me something fun to do, said Angela, standing knee-deep in the sparkling blue surf. As the children looked more closely, they saw she was feeding Shelley the turtle. Leo walked into the warm water, glancing behind him to make sure the rest of the workers were far enough away to make it safe to have a very secret conversation. Angela, he said, we need a teeny tiny favour. She looked up and smiled. You want to feed Shelley? Of course. Come in. We want to go home, yelled Harriet, swatting seagulls away from the nest on her head. We've had enough of this rock place, Ricky added. Angela glanced at Leo, who nodded knowingly. It's okay. I told them everything, he added. But I said that we're not allowed to say anything to anyone. We want to go home, yelled Eden. Join the club, Angela replied, seeming to let her guard down a little. This place sucks. If I could fly a plane, I'd be on that kaput 3000 and back home in no time. Come with us, said Leo. We can get you home tomorrow. You? How? And Leo told her his cake plan, right down to the very last detail, how the children would trick Vane and Volga into eating Harriet's culinary masterpiece, thereby giving them a taste of their own medicine, before all jumping aboard the kaput 3000 and escaping for good. Ooh, that is nasty, Angela said, with a devilish grin. I like it. Yes, said the children all together. But there is one tiny problem, she said, pointing to Leo's pink balloon which was floating above his backside, and I really hate to burst your bubble. Leo blushed, attempting to push his backside balloon beneath the water. This only caused it to bobble and bounce on the gentle waves. What is it? Demanded Harriet. You've missed a very important detail. You might think happy hour begins when you drink or smell the cogswoggle powder, but the awful transformations only happen when the island's bell rings at the same time. The bell originally belonged to the first chief who lived here long ago. He used to cast spells with it and the infamous cogswoggle plant. So, Leo asked, we make the cake and then ring the bell. Do you know where the bell is? Eden asked. Of course, Angela replied. But it's guarded 24 hours a day. No one who works here likes to ring it because it's kept in such a dangerous place. Don't tell me it's Meconium House, said Leo. How would we ever get in there? No, it's worse than that, said Angela. Worse? The bell is kept at the top of Greenback Hill. To get there, You must walk through Daisy's enclosure. Leo felt his heart sink. Komodo dragon, Daisy? Yes. See, dumb plan, mumbled Eden. No, not so dumb, Angela replied. It won't be easy, but it might be worth it. I do worry about Vane and Volga's intentions, and I also worry about the safety of all of us workers. Who knows how long we'll be here? I just don't trust them. Leo waited. So, are you in? He asked. Angela chewed on her thumbnail and stared into the distance. You're worried about the other workers, said Eden. I am, Angela replied. I mean, I just can't leave them here, not with those two. Just rescue them once you're home, said Leo, his arms raised high into the air. Angela nodded enthusiastically. Brilliant, Mr. Wrigley. So when is this glorious escape so I can put it in my diary? Tomorrow morning, Leo announced. Wow, you don't mess around, said Angela. I do not, replied Leo, feeling very proud and also petrified of his plan. Chapter 9. I'm not going to ask if you want another chapter. We're going to have it. When morning came, a violent storm was thumping its way through the jungle. How perfect, thought Leo. A storm. Rain. Surely the children will be asked to stay indoors. In the kitchen, for example. Yet this thought was followed by a far more worrying one. Flying a plane for the very first time, in such dangerous, unpredictable weather, with all of his friends on board? Leo sat up and looked around to see Felix riding an imaginary bike with his legs high in the air, and Eden lying on her stomach, the toilet seat still firmly glued to her behind. What are you doing? Felix asked Leo, watching him tie his shoelaces. We're going on a little adventure, Leo replied. Hey, let's name our ears. I'll call my left one Lily and my right one Ryan. Okay, Felix, we can do that. Now get your clothes ready because we're about to... The boy grabbed Leo by the arm. Also, I just farted in my dress. Can we just go, please? Said Eden. I want to get home. I want this toilet off my butt. I need this embarrassment to end pronto. There was a knock on the door. It was Angela. Good news, team, she chirped. I convinced the evil V's, as I like to call them, that we should bake this morning instead of swimming with Zoom and Shelley. This news made Leo a little sad, and he was sure he wasn't the only one. Baking a cake was much less fun than hanging out with your dolphin and turtle friends, but needs must. Angela opened the door for everyone, and they double-checked they'd left nothing behind. If everything went to plan, they would never return. Right on cue, the rain stopped. Leo led his team down the familiar winding path towards the food hall. No one said a word, not even Felix. A few minutes later, they stood before the enormous wooden door with a brass handle in the shape of a dragon's head. Next was the kitchen. Leo immediately checked behind the red curtain where he was delighted to see jar upon jar of bright purple powder. Just the ingredient Harriet needed for her famous chocolate cake. This time the girl with a bird's nest for a head was whizzing about the kitchen like a true professional. She presented her masterpiece, a 3-story high, rainbow-coloured sponge cake, whoa, covered with mini donuts, pink marshmallows and chocolate icing that dripped off the edges like a waterfall. It really was a lovely cake. It's perfect, Leo said, dragging his chair closer to the table. Now, here's the plan. Angela said that Vane and Volga were going to be here really soon. Eden, when they get here, please slice up the cake and feed them as much as you can. Angela and I won't be here because we need to get to the bell and ring it right after they eat. Wait, hang on. How will you rock when you rock to the rock? We know who that was. What did he say? Angela asked, a bemused look on her face. I think he said, how will you know when to ring the bell? Harriet replied. Is that right, Ricky? When he gave her the thumbs up, Harriet almost burst. "OMG," she cried. "That was totally a guess." A guess? It was totally a guess. "Good question, Ricky," said Angela. "Ringing the bell is normally Gilbert the parrot's job. During happy hour, he flies right up to the bell and rings it with his beak, without having to go through Daisy's cage. But yes, one of us two, Leo or myself, will be at the top of the hill. So how will you rock when to rock the rock?" "Does anyone have any ideas?" Leo asked. "How should we know?" said Eden. "Send a text?" "Very funny. We don't have phones, remember," Leo replied. "Smoke signals." Again it was Eden. "Like in the olden days?" Leo replied. "Don't be silly." Eden continued. "How about we get Zoom to swim up with a note?" "Eden, none of those suggestions are helpful," Harriet added. "Tape a message to Shelley's back and get her to walk up there." Harriet thumped the table. "She's our turtle. That's just ridiculous." "Not as ridiculous as the dolphin," said Angela. "Or," exclaimed Eden, "we could get an alien to come down from outer space and—" "Eden!" Leo yelled. "Not helpful." "I just want someone to unglue this toilet from my bum," said Eden. "Eden," said Ricky calmly, "Leo is trying to rock us home, so you can rock of an idea how Angela and Leo will know Vane and Volga have started eating the rock." "Oh, I don't know," she grumbled. "Yell out the window?" The children looked at Angela, who nodded solemnly. "It'll have to be a loud yell because we'll be at the top of Greenback Hill." "You mean like this?" "Ah! Oh, Eden, I'm practicing." "Okay, let's go with the yelling idea," said Angela. Bang, bang, came a loud knock at the door. "Is that them?" Harriet asked. Angela and Leo sprang up, flinging themselves towards the back door of the kitchen. "Oh, I almost forgot," said Angela. "If the evil V's ask where we are, just say, 'I had to take Leo to the bathroom because—'" "His bum exploded," Eden suggested. Said Leo, who could not wait to have a bum free of gum. "Oh, and don't forget," he added, "meet us by the super secret hut as soon as we ring the bell." What in the world was Leo Wrigley doing? For a boy who had felt so calm just minutes before, he now fretted over the tiniest of things. Would he really be able to fly the plane? Midnight Raider was a video game, but these were real live people. This was not a Burt Lancaster movie. Thankfully, right now he had little time to think. He was more concerned about trying to keep up with Angela. Her giant strides were leaving him behind. Leo's little legs must have looked like they belonged to a corgi. With his sweat-covered eyes and his pink bubble bum flapping about like a parachute, he sucked in one breath after the other, feeling so embarrassed for being such a snail. How glad he was that Jono and Yang couldn't see him right now. By the time Leo took his last aching steps up to the gates of Meconium House, Angela was already standing there with her arms folded, looking like an angel. A very unsweaty, beautiful angel. Her eyes were like green jewels. Leo's legs failed him completely. He slumped face first down onto the ground and shut his eyes. How long? How long have I been here?" Angela asked. "Yeah, how? "Oh, about an hour," she replied, chuckling. Suddenly there was a scratching sound on the other side of the fence. Leo bolted upright. "Is that—" "Probably just a monkey," said Angela, unlocking the gate. "In you go." "Me?" Angela stretched out her hand towards the cage. "So sorry to do this to you," she said, "but I can't handle lizards. They're disgusting." "But, I mean—" "Please," said Angela. "I'll keep an eye out for Daisy. You go into the enclosure and straight up the dirt path, and you'll reach the top of Greenback Hill. Then you'll see a huge golden bell. Pull the rope and ring it. Leo froze, his feet glued to the jungle floor. How on earth had he ended up in this position? Why on earth would he do such a dangerous thing? Angela put her arm around Leo's shoulder. Don't worry, Daisy sleeps half the time. Besides, I have this in case she gets hungry. And she waved about a piece of raw meat, red and fresh. Where did you get that? Leo asked. From the kitchen. Friendly island workers always take a piece into her enclosure when they go to ring the bell. Leo peered inside the cage. He saw the path Angela was talking about, and it wasn't too far at all. But whatever we do, we have to hurry, she said. Leo paused, his breath becoming shallow. Come on, Leo, you've got this. Leo stared into those luminous green eyes. Wow, she said my name. The creaky door swung open. Leo stepped forward as if in slow motion. He crouched and crept. Before he knew it, he was inside Daisy's cage. It was quiet, far too quiet for his liking. He turned back to face Angela, who held the door slightly open. He shuddered. Dead leaves and dead plants surrounded him. What a disgusting enclosure, like an old abandoned zoo, barren and dry with the stench of a filthy bathroom. Ugh. Where is she? Leo asked. Probably in her favourite spot, beneath the durian tree, Angela replied. Yes, she is. I can see her. She's sleeping. Leo kept his eyes glued to the dirt path ahead. He looked about. Nothing. Something was stirring in the leaves. Another monkey? He heard footsteps in a dark corner of the cage, followed by a terrifying cracking sound. Then he saw a claw. Thump. Don't worry, said a familiar voice. That was just me throwing Daisy a treat. Once again, Leo was on the run. He could barely believe it. As if trying to keep up with Angela wasn't enough, he now had to climb a hill in the baking sun and find the happy hour bell, and escaping without Daisy seeing him. 1 step, 2, 5 steps, 10. His knees and thighs ached. He quickly looked back, imagining Daisy's horrifying face, her snake-like tongue, her toothy claws waiting to eat a 10-year-old boy for lunch. But he saw nothing. A few strides later, and he caught the sight of the bell. Just a bit further, he muttered, egging himself on. Seconds later, he tripped, scraping his knee. It started to bleed, but he got up, shuffled on. 10 more steps. 5, 2... Leo Wrigley had reached the top of Greenback Hill, and there, shining like a light, was the happy hour bell, a golden piece of metal which, combined with the cogswoggle plant, had caused him and his friends so much harm. But why was he so afraid to touch it? Was his whole plan going to backfire? Perhaps only friendly island workers were allowed to ring it. Too bad, he thought. Vane and Volga were going to pay for this. Ah! Came a cry. Did you hear that? Angela yelled from the gate. Quick, turn the page. Yep, replied Leo, and held the bell rope tightly. He rang it loud and clear. What a feeling! What power! Ah! Dong, 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 dong. Ah! Dong, 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 dong. Come down now, Angela yelled. Leo heard the call and, filled with the confidence of an Olympic athlete, bounded down the dirt path. He felt as if he was flying. Catch me if you can, you dumb lizard, he yelled as he careered from the path and through the cage. Ha! Angela, did you see me? It was so easy, a piece of cake. Good job, Angela replied, and gave him a hearty high five. On the other side of the gate, Leo found a very tired-looking Eden, Ricky, Harriet and Felix. We made it, cried Leo. Good yelling, Eden. Good ringing, Leo, said Ricky. You should have racked Vane and Volga. They looked so rack. What happened when they ate the cake? Asked Leo. Come on, Angela said, moving the group along. Let's talk as we go. You should have seen them, Leo, Eden said, pulling at his shirt as she ran. After she ate the cake, Volga grew white hair all over her body. Did anyone else see that? Now she has buck teeth like a rabbit. And did you see her thumbs? No, because she doesn't have any. They're gone. Volga has no thumbs. She's a TS, that's why, said Angela, yelling from the front of the pack. A what? Eden replied. A TS. A thumb sucker, said Angela. That's why I stopped sucking my thumb when I was little. Rack, said Ricky, huffing and panting. Because Mum always said if I kept sucking my thumb I would lose it and I'd end up with buck teeth like a rabbit. OMG, what about Vane? Eden continued. When he ate the cake, he turned into I didn't even know what. His face went all rubbery, all twisted and deformed. We saw it happen. He looked into the mirror and cried so loud. Why is he so ugly? Maybe because he's an ugly person, Harriet said. Did your mum or dad ever say that if you pulled an ugly face and the wind changes, you'll stay like that? Angela asked. All the time, said Eden. That's Vane. He's a WWCK, a wind will change kid. He pulled too many rude faces and the wind changed. He deserve it, Eden said. And Volga. Suckers! Oops. Nearly skipped a page. The group of 6 wound their way through the deep jungle, up winding tracks, through bushes, past the monkey safari and over 2/3 bridge. Leo smelt the warm ocean air and watched palm trees sway like Hawaiian dancers. But in their excitement, the children failed to realise something. One member of their team couldn't think for himself. Felix had stopped. He was crouching and pointing at something further behind. Oh, look at the puppy, he cried. Puppy? What puppy? Leo asked. Good puppy, come here. There's a good boy. Is it a boy? Is this puppy a boy? At that moment, the rest of the children saw a Komodo dragon for the very first time. Leo pushed the line of children off the path. Leo, did you remember to shut the gate? Angela asked. I thought you did, Leo replied. How could I do it? Daisy was going to eat me. Suddenly, the lizard bounded towards the children, her long yellow tongue protruding as if searching for fresh meat. She snapped ferociously at Felix's leg and ripped off his shoe. Felix finally realised that this puppy was not the friendly type and took off towards Leo. The lizard followed closely behind. Run, 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 Leo yelled. Don't stop. Angela, you lead, I'll stay behind. Leo stopped briefly. He found the biggest boulder he could and hurled it at Daisy, but it just bounced off her thick skin like a basketball off concrete. Daisy's claws pounded the dirt. Spit formed in huge globs in her oversized scaly snout. She flashed her blood-stained teeth and hissed her way towards Leo. Run, he cried again. Eden tripped and fell face first into the mud. The children could only hope that the glue didn't stick to the mud. It didn't, but what it did do, rather miraculously, was somehow unstick the toilet seat from Eden's butt. Despite the lizard's face being just metres from her own, she picked up the toilet seat and began thrashing Daisy over the head with it. Take that, you poo brain, she said, whacking the beast with all of her might. Yeah, Felix yelled. Knock him out. Slightly dazed, the Komodo dragon meandered after Eden, but it was too late. She was now being pulled to safety by Harriet and Ricky, who were seated on a sturdy branch. Defeated, the lizard stomped her feet and made her way back towards Meconium House. What the actual Fazuki was that thing? Harriet asked, her hand still covering her mouth. Daisy, Leo said, feeling strangely calm. Who? Harriet asked. Daisy, Leo repeated. That thing doesn't look like a daisy, said Eden. Rock! Right it doesn't. Rock like a rock. Leo giggled a nervous giggle. They had escaped danger, but he didn't doubt for 1 minute that there was more on the way. He is so right. Chapter 20. How many more chapters? 20 and... Oh, is it 21? Let me see. Yes, 20 and 21. We are nearing the end. Are you nice and comfy? Okay, take a sip of water, pull those blankets up over your nose, and get ready. The children galloped down the hill, prickly plants scratching their bare legs. Leo kept a close eye on Felix, who was so far behaving himself, but he knew very well that could change at any moment. Soon they landed on the flat, hard sand of Barefoot Beach. They stood in almost the exact spot where they'd disembarked the Kaput 3000 the day they arrived. "Now what?" asked Eden. "That's what," said Leo, pointing to the shiny silvery plain which sat on a tiny island across the water. "And how do you suppose we get across?" Eden asked. "Swim," said Leo. "No, no, no," said Eden. "I'm not getting in there again. No way." "It's not far," said Leo. "No way," Eden repeated. "It's a popcorn wedding. Let's get naked," Felix screamed, and took off most of his clothes, throwing them into the air like confetti. The wind blew his shorts and t-shirt down Barefoot Beach. The children watched as they floated out of sight. Any other time, such a scene would have been hilarious, but not now. Especially not now, because when the children turned the other way, they encountered a frightening sight, an unbelievable sight. What is it? It's Vane. "You schmidiots haven't learned a thing," said a voice. It was Vane, standing there beside Daisy. How right Eden had been. What a hideous sight he was. Vane's cheeks and forehead were curved into a crooked mess. His facial muscles were working overtime, as if he was travelling on a roller coaster at the speed of a rocket. As for his hair, his once perfect hair, it shot up into the air like a porcupine in a wind turbine. An icy shiver went down Leo's spine when he spied Volga sneaking up from behind him. She was holding 5 glistening gold medals. "Remember these," she said. "Remember how we said you had to behave to receive them? Don't schmidiots love medals?" "We don't want your medals," said Harriet. "They're cheap, just like you." "Your island stinks," screamed Eden. "You stink." "Get them, Daisy," ordered Vane, and released the lizard onto the unsuspecting children. The creature spun around at a ferocious speed and, when finally freed from the leash, strode towards what she thought was dinner, which just so happened to be a buck-toothed, overly hairy woman in the shape of a rabbit. "No!" screamed Volga. "There's a good girl. It's me, your mummy." But Volga panicked and fell backwards onto the lizard, who swung her around like a toddler's toy. "Help me, you awful children," she screamed. A terrified Volga now lay on Daisy's back, too fearful to get off. When the lizard flopped over, Volga got to her feet and stumbled across the hot sand. "Stay away from me! Stay away from you, stupid reptile!" And Volga disappeared into the jungle with Daisy snapping at her heels. Leo quickly discovered that having a bubble for a butt was actually very useful for escaping from a dangerous island, and especially when it came to swimming. As Vane watched his pet chase Volga, Leo ran into the water with Felix and was followed by the rest of the children. Soon they couldn't touch the bottom at all. They had to start swimming, which was all well and good until everyone began to struggle in the violent current. Leo figured it would take another 10 minutes of strong swimming to reach the Kaput 3000, but at least Vane was nowhere to be seen, though he did spy fins. "OMG, OMG, 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 cried Eden. "Sharks!" "Don't worry," said Leo calmly. "They're dolphins, remember?" "Oh, thank you, Leo," replied Eden. The children dragged themselves up onto the rocks of the tiny island and tiptoed across jagged stone to reach the warm white sand. Minutes later, they reached the Kaput 3000. "Everyone on board," said Leo. He climbed up the steps into the cockpit and slammed the main door behind him. He could not wait to fly this plane. And what a bonus! His bubblegum butt meant he didn't even have to raise the seat. Nor did he need a cushion. He felt very grown up. Leo sat behind the steering wheel, just like he'd done hundreds of times on Midnight Raider. He was delighted to see that the buttons were exactly the same. There was off, mag 1, mag 2, both, and start. He hit the start button and held it down until the engine cranked up, his heart nearly beating out of his chest when a thunderous growl echoed throughout the cockpit. Yikes! He'd told his friends that he knew everything about airplanes, but he'd never actually flown one, not a real one anyway. "Is everyone here?" Leo asked, turning the throttle up to full bore. "Thieving brat? Chronic swearer? Hair chewer? Nose picker?" "Yes, we're all here," Harriet replied. "Now move it. I want my mama." "Full steam ahead," said Leo, and the Kaput 3000 rolled along the sand and into the surf, the plane's retractable wheels inching up until it entered the water. As the plane wobbled from side to side in the waves, Leo saw something out of the corner of his eye. A large object was seriously obstructing the wing. On second look, Leo saw exactly what it was. It was Vane, and now he lunged forward and tried to grab Leo through the window, but the boy was too quick. Leo turned the wheel sharply and increased speed. The Kaput 3000 was now skimming above deeper water. The wind in the cabin was deafening. Vane fumed and spluttered, but his grip was solid. He was relentless. He even managed a few words. "You will regret this," he screamed. "Anyway, there's no way you'll be able to fly this machine. You're just a stupid child." Leo felt more determined than ever now. He had to do this for his friends. He turned the throttle further and the plane's engines revved and purred. As the plane gained speed, Vane was slowly losing his grip. "Please," he stammered, "I beg you all to stay, or at least give us a 5-star rating. Tell your friends. We'll even take adults." "More like a 0-star rating," said Leo. The noise of the engine was draining out Vane's voice, but he screamed even louder. "We're getting a roller coaster! Did we tell you that? A roller coaster!" But Leo had discovered something far more exciting. The faster he went, the further Vane slipped down the wing until he fell off altogether. Leo watched as Vane plunged from the wing into the ocean 10 feet below, landing like a cow in a bath. "Nice helicopter dive!" Leo yelled. Vane swam frantically towards Barefoot Beach, closely followed by dozens of sharp grey fins. These fins weren't curved, they went straight up. The Kaput 3000's engines kicked into gear and it skyrocketed into the air. Wait till his mum and dad found out that he'd flown a real plane. Tucked safely into their seats, the passengers aboard Kaput 3000 could relax and look forward to seeing their family and friends. But after a while, Harriet got up and sidled in to sit beside Angela. "Why did you help us?" she asked. "Because the evil V's were nasty and vindictive," replied Angela, "and they should have known better than to torture innocent children." "But you might lose your job," said Eden. Angela took off her friendly island cap and tossed it beside her. "Sounds fine to me," she laughed. "Rock! Rock! Rock!" "Ask me if I'm a bookshop," Felix yelled. "What's that, Felix?" Angela replied. "Ask me if I'm a bookshop." "Fine, Felix, we'll play your game." "Are you a bookshop?" "Of course not." The children laughed at Felix's joke, though Harriet didn't. She picked at the twigs in her hair, trying to pull them out one by one. "How will I ever go to school looking like this?" "Don't worry, Harriet," Angela replied, looking at her and the other children. "When the cogswoggle juice is out of your system, you'll return back to normal. Hopefully by the time we reach home." "There! Thank Rock for that," yelled Ricky. This time Harriet did laugh. Back in the cockpit, Leo yelled, "Hey guys, has anyone ever heard of a movie called Burp Lancaster?" "No, Captain," came the replies. "He flies planes in his films. He's my imaginary co-pilot, and he's going to help us get home." "Yes, we are going home," Eden squealed. "Rock!" As the Kaput 3000 jerked, and seesawed up in the air, Leo glanced down at the most unfriendly island. "Bye, Shelley," he whispered. "Bye, Zoom. Good riddance, evil V's." Wow, how are you going? We are now at chapter 21, the final chapter. And it looks like it's going to be a happy ending, doesn't it? Okay. The second Leo arrived home, his little dog, Peace and Quiet, smothered him with kisses before bouncing around and chasing his tail in excitement. An hour before, Leo had landed the Kaput 3000 safe and sound in a park near Gumsbury and hugged his mum and dad for a very long time. Then they all rode home in their newest car. A car shaped like a hot dog. A prize. "We were so worried," said Mrs. Wiggly. "Did everyone get home safely?" "Yep, I dropped them off one by one," said Leo. "You really flew a plane?" asked his dad. Leo smirked. "I did." "And on the plane you talked about that problem you had on the island?" said his mum. "No more bubblegum bottom issues?" "Mum, please don't bring that." "Do you have any bubblegum bottom issues?" "No," Leo replied. "It's fine now," he continued quietly. "And your friends?" "Don't have any bubblegum bottom issues either," Leo sniggered. Mrs. Wrigley turned around in her seat to face her son. "They're normal too." "Okay?" Mr. Wrigley frowned, his bushy eyebrows joining together. "Such evil people," he snarled. "We are so sorry, son. We had no idea. We honestly thought we were sending you to a friendly island. That's what the competition said." "Dad?" "Yes, son?" "Did you read the fine print?" There was silence in the moving hot dog until they reached home. That afternoon, Leo made his mum and dad some tea, with a dash of milk and 1 cube of sugar each. Then they all watched the latest Burt Lancaster movie. Margot's mess had all disappeared and Leo's Midnight Raider was all set up. Make that Midnight Raider version 2, fresh out of the box. Killer B 007 was going to be dead meat. "You promised me when you became a pilot you'd give me a free ride to the south of France," said Mr. Wrigley. "Any time, Dad," Leo replied. "Hey, I know this sounds really crazy, but can we invite Aunt Margot over for dinner tonight? You know, and do what we talked about?" Mr. Wrigley winked, adding, "That's a bit of a wicked idea, son. Don't you think she'd like a present, though?" Mr. Wrigley got up to leave, adding, "I just hope she reads the fine print." Now that he knew how to find his way around a kitchen, Leo cooked a roast chicken with his mum and dad. There was apple pie and vanilla ice cream for dessert. Soon Margot arrived, walking in just like she owned the place. She threw her bag onto the couch and hissed, "Been on my feet all day, haven't stopped, not for 1 minute." She wagged her finger at Leo. "Get me a cold drink, boy. Lots of ice, and don't muck around." Leo did as he was told, placing a beautifully prepared drink in front of his auntie. "Nice to see you too, Aunt Margot," he replied. "So, how was Friendly Island?" she asked, chewing her ice cube loudly. "I'm utterly fascinated to know." "Like you said, Aunt Margot, it was unforgettable," Leo replied. "So, you enjoyed it?" "I learnt a lot." Leo tried to look like a boy who had learnt an important life lesson and was grateful for it. Aunt Margot smirked. "I'm sure you did." "But after that there was swimming with dolphins and monkey safaris. It was so much fun," said Leo, and he opened a drawer beside the kitchen table and held up an envelope to Aunt Margot. "This is for you," he said. "They gave it to me because I was so well behaved. It's a free ticket to a new camp they're opening for adults." "For adults?" she asked. "For adults?" she asked. "For adults?" she asked. Oh my goodness. Fourth time lucky? "For adults?" she asked. "Yes, they can go and be pampered as a reward for their hard work," said Mr. Wrigley innocently. "You deserve it after you looked after Leo so well." For a few seconds longer, Aunt Margot continued to look uncertain. Then she snapped, "I certainly do. Hand it over." Leo gave her the envelope containing the fake brochure and invitation he designed on his parents' computer. As she read, Margot wriggled about in her chair like a child waiting for a birthday present. "Well, this sounds just like what I need," she exclaimed. "Make sure you try the Cogswoggle cocktail. It's life-changing," Leo said. "And the cake. It's so yummy. Oh, and you'll get to meet the new owner's pet, Daisy. She's a little lizard. She's very friendly." "Animals love me," said Margot, still reading. "Daisy certainly will," said Leo, winking at his dad. But Margot wasn't listening anymore. She was studying the brochure closely. After a few minutes, she stood up and announced, "Right, I've had enough of hanging around here. I'm off to Friendly Island." She downed the rest of her drink in one gulp. Then she stood up, put her shoes on, and left without saying another word. "Enjoy your trip," Leo yelled from the couch. "I think you'll find it unforgettable." Leo took a long shower and put on his favourite pyjamas. He took out the wad of Doubly Bubbly he'd been chewing and put it carefully into the bin. Then he climbed into his own bed, rested his head on his own pillow, and hid beneath his own fighter jet duvet cover. Peace and quiet lay next to him, fast asleep. Jono and Ben both texted, dying to know where he'd been. And downstairs, Leo heard the comforting sounds of his father moving around in the kitchen. After a while, Dad came in with a hot cup of tea. He sat on the edge of the bed and handed the mug to Leo. "Oh, it's so good to have you home, Master Wrigley," he said, with a smile. "It's great to be home, Dad." Leo's father kissed him on the forehead and tucked him in tight. Then he switched off the light and closed the door, but not all the way. Leo pulled the sheets up, right up to his chin, and wriggled happily in the comfort of his own bed. He lay there for a long time thinking about his new friends and Angela. It had been hard to leave them, and he hoped to see them again soon some day. But mostly he smiled, remembering how often Aunt Margot picked her nose at dinner. The end. That's the end of the story. Freakout Island by Justin Christopher. Wasn't it good? Remember to find Justin Christopher author, on Facebook and Instagram. You can come back and watch this video as many times as you like. You can order the book from fishpond.co.nz. You'll get the paperback. And if you want the e-book version, you can find it on Amazon and you can read it again as many times as you like. And you can join us tomorrow night for a special live session. Here on Facebook and on YouTube, we are going to talk to Justin Christopher. What questions do you want me to ask? Comment below in the description or find me on Facebook and let me know there. And I'll do my best to answer all the questions you want answered. Like, why did he write this book? Well, thank you for joining me. I've loved sharing this bedtime story with you. And we might find another one later. But right now, snuggle down. Make yourself nice and comfy and I'll sing, see ya later. It's time to say goodbye. Goodbye, my friend. See you soon.